and how that applies to us as individuals, how that applies to us as families, as in the workplaces, and even in the community at large. How are we going to guard against, the great effect of this particular situation? I don't know whether Daktari you are in.
Yes, I am.
Oh, thank you so much, Daktari, and we're really privileged to have you. Thanks so much for accepting our invitation to talk through this important topic. So we estimate that this is going to take about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and thereafter we'll open it up for questions. We want to encourage all participants, if you have a question, you can actually post on the chat wall so that Daktari can take it on immediately after he completes his presentation. Otherwise, we're really happy, and I think at this point, I want to hand over to Daktari to take over from there and do his presentation. Daktari, karibu.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening, Daktari.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm honored for having me this evening. I hope everyone is able to see the screen.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. Proceed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me today. My name is Edward Maina. I'm a medical practitioner registered with the Medical Practitioners Board of Kenya, currently serving at Kenyatta University. So today we are going to look at the psychosocial effects of COVID-19, an aspect of mental health, also in awareness of the Mental Health Week. So we'll start with a pandemic. Basically, the definition of a pandemic is a large-scale disease, a disease that affects a vast proportion of the population. So for a pandemic to be called as so, to be respected as so, there are certain characteristics an organism has to possess. First of all, it has to be new to us as humans, new to our immune systems, an organism that we've never encountered before. It has to be transmitted easily. And once someone contracts it, it has to have a notable effect on the body, a severe illness. This is why what we are having currently is considered a pandemic and not the normal influenza or colds that people suffer from. So these pandemics have been with us for a long time. They have been the norm rather than the exception. This is not an exhaustive list. It's just some that I picked up. We've had the bubonic plague between 1346 and 1353. This one was caused by an organism known as the Yersinia pestis, and it wiped off 50 million people in its wake. We've also had the Spanish flu, the Hong Kong flu, HIV, which we still have up to now, the swine flu, which is a precursor to whatever we're having today, and the Zika virus, which was in Congo. So coming to SARS-CoV-2, so it is caused by coronaviruses, which is a family of viruses, 7 of which are the mischievous ones, the ones that affect us. Transmission as of now is believed to occur via respiratory droplets. That means it's from the mouth. If someone coughs or sneezes, the droplets that come out are highly infective. It can, that it can persist on surfaces. and has varying degrees of infectivity. So it has also been shown that someone doesn't need to be ill or to show symptoms for them to be able to transmit the virus. Why do we hate these pandemics? First of all, they threaten our health, they disrupt our normal routines, they separate us from our family and community, they cause disruptions in the supplies of foods and medicine, wage loss, and school closure. They have a huge effect on our healthcare. When hospitals start getting full, health systems start breaking down. They have a huge effect on how we see other people, and especially as we go on, I'll talk about immigrants. They have a huge effect on our economy. In fact, before this virus, the American College of Medicine had estimated that in the event of a pandemic, other than the one that they had last in 2010, it would cost at least the American economy, which is global to some extent, $6 trillion. So generally, how do we manage these pandemics? So the first aspect is how we communicate. What has been christened as risk communication. So ideally, the news should be broken early, the news of any pandemic. It doesn't matter whether it's incomplete. It has been shown that it is ideal for people to know. Information should be transmitted as to what the public can do to keep safe. Whoever is giving the information should maintain transparency. There should be an effort to understand the prevailing public view and concerns. And then we should evaluate the impact of these messages to the public. Then pharmacologic treatments, which just means medicines and vaccines to manage the virus. These are the mainstays for management. Unfortunately, they're time consuming. Just preparing a vaccine from inception to the day it's rolled to the public takes about a year. They're costly. And some studies have shown that they have a 90% failure rate, also due to the pressure given and to the lack of understanding of a disease as it is now. Hygiene practices, this are normal hand washing, covering our sneezes and coughs, hand awareness, not to touch our faces, or mucous membranes, cleaning household surfaces, and wearing face masks. It's easy to present it as such, but it has been shown that people don't really, and especially where people don't feel that they have a risk of being infected, they do not take some of these hygiene practices seriously. In fact, in the UK, it has been shown that people who are boarding public transport, fecal bacteria has been found on their hands, even at a critical time like this. Social distancing, which is basically composed of quarantine of infected persons, school closures, workplace closures, canceling mass gatherings, and closing non-essential businesses and domestic travel. These are basically the 4 tenets of managing any pandemic, not just coronavirus. So, what are some of the psychological reactions that we see during pandemics? First is fear. We have experienced during earlier pandemics that sometimes the fear of the disease is more than the severity of the disease itself. We have seen that with certain individuals, people who are prone to anxiety, just the ideology behind the disease will cause more harm than the disease itself. Also, there's the emergence of quack remedies. I've seen on WhatsApp people advocating for aspirin and lemon water. It has been advocated that people could ingest disinfectants, use ultraviolet rays, which basically some of them are dangerous, bordering on stupidity, and others have little to no effect. In earlier pandemics, we have witnessed civil unrest, rioting, and mass panic. Mass panic because people would tend to panic buy. People would tend to think that they're running short on supplies, and so they would invade shops to get this state supplies. Also, people have a general distrust of the government, thinking that there is always a sinister plan. In fact, right now, people are talking about pandemics instead of the disease itself. People have an idea that this has been planned all along. There's a sinister plan that people have to gain economically from this disease. Also, with social distancing, which then necessitates closure of business, there is no money, and people have to survive. So this turns out as a major side effect. So there's something called sickness behavior. It's something that is different from the disease. It's something that is gotten during infection, either by a virus or a bacteria. It has been described by those individuals have written there. It is triggered by the same things that alert the body of sickness or infection, which are called cytokines. They're just like your soldiers. And some of its symptoms include nausea, fatigue, sleeping difficulties, irritability, depression, problems with memory and attention. And this are treated separately from the disease. I want to make the point that this sickness behavior is distinctly different from the fever that someone gets as an outcome of infection, which can give you the same symptoms also. So some of the emotional reaction to pandemics would include a big word, neuroticism, which basically means that there are some people who have been shown to have certain traits. Traits are behaviors, the way a person thinks, acts, or feels in across situations. So there are people who have been shown to have negative emotionality. There are people who have been shown to be more anxious. There are people who have been shown to be more prone to depression. It is not something that is at times controllable. It is something that is just pre-existing. So under this neuroticism, go and look at them one by one. So there are people with something we call trait anxiety and harm avoidance. These individuals, across situations, that tend to be more anxious. They tend to worry about, they tend to be people who endorse statements such as, this virus will definitely kill us all. Or these people will endorse statements such as, they're worried to a fault about the existing condition. And also there are those on the extreme end who tend to avoid anything that appears to, they overly avoid anything that appears to encourage the disease process. These are the people who will sanitize their hands 10 times in 1 minute. These are the people who tend to go to hospital whenever they have a cold. These are the people who tend to have standing orders to their family members not to leave the house. These are the individuals who tend to have 1 million hand sanitizers lying in the house. There are those who overestimate the threat. So individuals who overestimate threats tend to see something that is bigger than what it actually is. For instance, we are seeing our numbers go up exponentially, which is something that was expected. What we ignore is also the recovery rate. If you compare the individuals who are getting ill plus the individuals who are recovering every day, then we see we have a stable situation. The individuals who are grouped under uncertainty intolerance, these are the people who can't stay without knowing. They cannot tolerate uncertainty anymore. So they want to know the numbers.
Mom.
These are the people who would like to control every aspect of their life, which is also at times impossible. And it tends to come with very high levels of anxiety and a very low threshold for depression. Then there's this phenomenon called monitoring versus blunting. Monitoring are those individuals who want to know they seek out information concerning the disease. These are the people who look at the TV any point where there is a press conference going on because they want to know the latest numbers. They want to know the latest treatment. They want to know the numbers worldwide and which country is suffering more than the other, and what is happening in other jurisdictions. And then there are those who completely disregard everything. They do not want to watch the news. They do not want to know anything that is going on. They get a routine and stick to that routine, which sometimes can be deleterious. Then there are those with the unrealistic optimism bias. These are the people who confidently walk and say statements such as itachukua wale itachukua. The people who say that it does not get Africans, or they use very general statements to validate their claims. So someone will tell you, in fact, these numbers are cooked, so there's no coronavirus in Kenya, such kind of statements. And then there are those who are very anxious. And anxiety, sensitivity, and body vigilance are those people who, if they wake up in the morning and they cough, they will go straight to hospital because they feel that this is a symptom. It cannot be anything else apart from that virus. These are the people who, if they feel an itch, it immediately throws them off balance. So these are some of the emotional reactions that have been seen to exist in pandemics. So what is our societal reaction to pandemics? This one was interesting. So we have something called the behavioral immune system. Basically, what happens is your body cannot always rely on your immune system to recognize a virus or a bacteria once it has attacked. So there are a set of conscious and subconscious mechanisms that your body has developed that you might know or might not know that make you not want to interact with certain individuals. Now, these reactions are divided into two. There's the perceived vulnerability to disease, which then means that there are individuals who, on a scale, want to measure how prone they are to getting an illness. So there are people who may not want to take public transport because they feel that this sort of transport would expose them to a disease. There are people who feel that being in any gathering, even if it's with two other people, would be exposing them to a disease. Then there's a second one, which is disgust sensitivity. The way this one works is you are more likely to avoid people who are coughing, or who just look sick. And this has been observed in populations. Now, coming back to the first one, the perceived vulnerability disease. This one applies to health, and sometimes it stigmatizes population. For example, this virus has been claimed to be from a particular country, and that this country willingly spread the virus. So individuals from this country are finding it hard to cope if they're migrants in other countries, such as even Kenya. We find that people want to maintain a distance from certain minorities with the view that these people are the ones carrying the illness. It has been there since history. When the Europeans invaded America, they brought smallpox with them, and consequently, they were avoided. They are the people who brought the plague. And this is the same thing that is playing out now with certain populations of people being avoided with the claim that they brought the illness. So finally, how do we manage stress as individuals, as families? First of all, stay informed. Stay informed, have the latest news with you. Please get your news from trusted sources. This can be the government, the Center for Disease Control, legitimate websites that have stories that can be verified with sources. Keep things in perspective. I've shown you from the first slide that this has not been the first pandemic, and judging from history will not be the last. And with this one, the rate of recovery is quite higher. So as much as we're instituting measures to keep ourselves healthy and unexposed, also it is something that does not require panic. Number 3, stay healthy. The way this virus seems to cause disease is by overexciting the immune system. And it becomes harder the more healthier one is. So eat well, exercise as much, get your vitamin C, vitamin D, supplements. Please avoid alcohol where you can. And then we build resilience. This too is going to pass. We have been through a lot, even in life, personal life, people have overcome major challenges, and this is just one of those obstacles that can be overcome. Also have a plan. In these times of lockdowns, at least have a proper supply of food in the house, a proper supply of household goods. Know where your closest hospital is. And of course, when you're informed, you know how and when to take someone who you need a bit medical attention. Also, for those, it's advisable to readjust budgets given the prevailing economic conditions. Communicate with your children. Children take cues from adults. So if you panic, they panic. So it's also good to keep children abreast, talk with them openly, of course, at their level of understanding concerning whatever is happening now. Let them know that it's going to be okay, and check in on them every once in a while. And then last but not least, keep connected. Do not isolate yourself. Please talk to someone. Social media is one such channel one can utilize. talk to friends, talk to family. If there are any concerns, tell them, let them know, share. And in this vein, also, if one finds that they're extremely anxious or they're inclined to using substances, one is always drinking. Also, it's advisable to consult a professional. As it is now, as its list of members, valid members, who one may contact. We also have hospitals which have counselors, so please feel free. Again, we shall be well. So thank you very much. I'm open to questions. Hello.
Thank you so much, Daktari. I think that has really come out very, very, very well. I hope the participants in this call, have really gained something new, something that they can apply even in the midst of this pandemic. So what I would encourage is, if you have any question, any comments, you can meanwhile post it on the wall. Daktari, some of the questions that are coming through recently, there've been reports about rising domestic violence during this time. What do you associate that with, particularly during this lockdown and all the family members are at home and they are together? What are your thoughts around that? And then number two is now dealing with stigma. When you've heard about cases where those who've been diagnosed of COVID-19 tend to be stigmatized. People tend to run away from them, to isolate them. Maybe you can talk a little bit of that on, particularly then even as society, as family, how we can help in that space.
Okay. So domestic abuse is on the rise, and it tends to be multifaceted. There are various reasons as to why. One, people with the social distancing, which has necessitated closure of businesses, it means people are not able to work, and with that, there's a certain behavioral inclination. People tend to have a lower threshold to be angry, to be irritated, to be frustrated. Also, is the fact that pandemics tend to accelerate change. Where a relationship trouble, it tends to amplify the trouble because people have now been forced to stay together. And while in the past, if there was a problem, someone would have the option of walking out. Now, with the help of GSU, one cannot do the same. So this is why right now there's a high rate of domestic abuse, and we encourage couples right now. The online counseling classes, and for those who would like to leave the house during times that have been provided by the government, they can come to hospitals for counseling. Now, on the second question of stigmatization, this was due to happen because here we have talked about the behavioral immune system that just makes one wary of individuals who are thought to be sick. And also the fact that this illness, because of our lack of understanding, is being treated as if it's a mystery. that one, the chances are if one gets it, they die. Both false. There's a high rate of recovery, and this is a sickness that most people who will contract will have mild disease. And also, once one has been tested in a facility and has been shown not to have the illness, then that is it. Well, they can be reintegrated into society. In relation to that, also the way we talk to other people and the way we pass messages, and especially in a corporate culture, we should be open about the facts. If one has been quarantined, there are three possibilities. Either one is a confirmed case, meaning they have been tested and they are positive. One is a probable case, meaning there's a possibility that they could be positive, and one is a suspected case. This can mean that they came in contact with someone who had it. Therefore, we suspect that they could have it. So not everyone that goes to quarantine is positive. In fact, most of them, they come, they test negative, and we discharge them home. I hope that answers both questions. Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, Daktari, I think I had actually muted myself now. Thank you. That was actually clear. There's a question here on the wall. What happens to persons who have recovered? How are their integration so far? I don't know whether you have any information. All those people who've actually recovered, how have they integrated back into society? Any idea?
Just like any other disease, the way if someone had malaria and then they're treated, then they go back to the community, they no longer have malaria. The same thing with coronavirus. There have been a few cases of reinfection that have been reported in China, but these have not been seen in Kenya. So everyone we have discharged, no one has come back with reinfection, and we are sure from our testing that after